Hello, everyone, and welcome to Watch Addict Ranveer Sharma.
Welcome to The Debate. Our source material today takes us into the really fascinating world of ultra-luxury timepieces. We're focusing on three watches that are, well, titans in both watchmaking and, frankly, cultural capital. The Rolex Submariner, the Patek Philippe Nautilus, and the Audemars Piguet Royal Oak.
Mm.
And the material uses this striking list of global icons, from Hollywood's Steve McQueen, Brad Pitt, to Bollywood's Shah Rukh Khan and Virat Kohli, to really demonstrate that these watches are, well, they're far removed from just telling time. They're explicitly presented as status symbols, fashion statements, and sometimes obsession-worthy collectibles.
Right. Status symbols being key there.
Exactly. And this pervasive cultural status, it really begs a critical question. When we look at the astronomical, enduring value of these specific ultra-luxury watches, is that unique valuation fundamentally derived from intrinsic factors, things like the quality of the engineering, the mastery of the design, the verifiable horological merit? Or is the current market price overwhelmingly driven by extrinsic factors, things like celebrity endorsement, brand marketing, induced scarcity, and just the signaling power of perceived exclusivity? I'll be arguing that the true lasting value and the iconic status of these three watches are rooted in their verifiable intrinsic quality and their objective contribution to watchmaking history.
And I'll be taking the opposing view. I'm going to argue that for this specific, rarefied tier of collectible, the unique market valuation and this modern obsession-worthy status are overwhelmingly driven and sustained by extrinsic social and economic factors, specifically the mechanism of positional scarcity and the manufactured appeal of status signaling.
Well, my position is that the foundation of these watches' lasting appeal is really tangible, objective excellence, qualities that, frankly, would command a premium even without any celebrity affiliation. Consider the Rolex Submariner. It's called an icon because of its original, over-engineered precision and the sheer durability of its oyster case and self-winding perpetual movement. These were features that established the global standard for the modern tool watch. The material describes its design as timeless precisely because it's functionally pretty much perfect, transcending decades. So the interest shown by figures like Tom Cruise or Shah Rukh Khan, that's a reflection of its established, objective horological greatness, not the source of its value.
Mm-hmm.
Similarly, the Patek Philippe Nautilus, it commands its value because it represents a crucial piece of horological history going back to Gerald Genta's revolutionary 1970s design. Its merit is rooted in that design legacy, and, of course, the craftsmanship. And the Audemars Piguet Royal Oak is explicitly called a true masterpiece of design and engineering, an objective achievement that integrated steel into the luxury sector in a completely new way. So look, the reason celebrities flock to these pieces is because their intrinsic quality has already established them as resilient, generational icons.
Okay. Intrinsic quality certainly sets a high baseline, I grant you that. But for these ultra-luxury watches that achieve this level of, let's call it, market frenzy and celebrity saturation, the market price becomes utterly divorced from the cost of materials and craftsmanship. I mean, the source material explicitly labels them as status symbols, first and foremost, suggesting their primary function is external communication. The very discussion around the Nautilus, the material asks whether its astronomical resale value truly justifies its price, or if it is, and I quote, mostly hype created by celebrity endorsements. That framing points directly, I think, to the dominance of external, social market forces. And the Submariner, despite its technical excellence, it relies on status. The noted debate among enthusiasts that it might be becoming too common, that's definitive proof its value relies heavily on the extrinsic factor of exclusivity. If it loses its social capital, its precision alone isn't going to save its market premium. I'd argue these watches function as Veblen goods. The high price doesn't deter demand, it is the demand. And that status is conferred externally through really strategic marketing and explicit validation by cultural arbiters like Brad Pitt and Jay-Z. I come at it from a different way. These watches are explicitly described as status symbols. That status is conferred externally, not intrinsically.
Okay, let's maybe anchor this debate by focusing intensely on the Patek Philippe Nautilus for a moment. Because, as you said, the source material brings this issue of valuation to its sharpest point there, highlighting its astronomical resale value and immediately asking about hype.
Exactly. If the value were truly intrinsic, a perfect representation of material cost plus the difficulty of crafting the movement, then its resale price would track much closer to its retail price. Instead, we see prices that are, well, completely divorced from the practical function of telling time. The worth seems based on positional scarcity. Only a tiny fraction of the global elite can actually access one.
Right.
And this scarcity, I argue, is deliberately fueled by celebrity flaunting. The primary driver here seems to be the acquired status and the social capital associated with famous, high-profile ownership. Figures like Karan Johar or Amitabh Bachchan wearing these watches aren't just appreciating engineering, they're actively participating in this closed-loop system where exclusivity itself becomes the most valuable commodity.
Well, I must push back on the premise that the astronomical secondary market valuation fundamentally challenges the primacy of intrinsic value. The historical context, the legacy of craftsmanship, and the groundbreaking concept of the integrated bracelet that Gerald Genta executed, these factors combine to create something the material calls the epitome of elegance and exclusivity. The secondary market price isn't just for the hype, it's the market's acknowledgement of this enduring historical and aesthetic achievement. The high resale value is, I believe, a consequence of its proven, lasting intrinsic merit, acting almost like a financial hedge against market fluctuations. Precisely because collectors know the quality and significance are undeniable. The perceived scarcity is a factor, yes, I concede that, but only because the underlying product is recognized globally as being, well, the pinnacle of design.
But that explanation sort of fails to account for the systematic marketing and the induced desirability required to maintain this level of exclusivity. If the intrinsic quality, the movement, the finishing, were truly sufficient on its own to sustain, say, $1 million secondary market, why is celebrity endorsement constantly utilized and highlighted? Why the intense focus on who is wearing it now? I mean, the extensive marketing machine is necessary because the consumer is ultimately buying exclusion and status, not just an escapement. They're paying a massive premium for the social validation provided by people like John Mayer, who actively shape the desire for this specific reference. The utility might be horological, but the value, I'd argue, is fundamentally sociological.
Okay, if we shift our focus now to the Rolex Submariner, I believe it serves as the perfect counterexample to this dominance of exclusivity argument. The Submariner's success is fundamentally rooted in the fact that it is a masterclass in functional design. It's robust, hyper-legible, incredibly durable. The material notes its ubiquity, its commonness even among celebrities like Hrithika Roshan and Ranveer Singh, which, inherently lessens its exclusivity compared to something like the Nautilus.
True.
Yet, despite this ubiquity, the material still identifies it as the ultimate symbol of luxury. This endurance proves that the core intrinsic factors, its classic design, its precision, its established functional credibility as the benchmark dive watch, are powerful enough to sustain incredible value and status, even when the extrinsic factor of rarity is diminished. Its value is derived from its inherent utility and reliability, qualities that have made it a proven standard across generations.
I'm sorry, but I just don't buy that the Submariner defies the extrinsic argument. In fact, the material used to describe it perfectly supports my claim. You mentioned the ubiquity, right? But the source explicitly references the internal debate among watch enthusiasts about whether the Submariner has become too common. Now, what does that actually mean? It means its perceived status, that extrinsic social capital, is under threat precisely because the factor of exclusivity is eroding.
Interesting point.
If its precision and technical mastery were truly the sole drivers of its luxury status, the commonness wouldn't matter at all. The very fact that its perceived value is sensitive to how many other people are wearing it proves its status relies heavily on its function as a positional good. Its continued success is only possible because high-profile stars continually revalidate its status symbol identity, maintaining this kind of fantasy of exclusivity even in the face of widespread ownership. It's an achievement in marketing positioning, perhaps, as much as it is in horology.
That's an interesting point, though I would frame it differently. I must challenge the idea that widespread recognition inherently diminishes luxury status in this case. Its durability and near-universal recognition are the fundamental traits that make it the established baseline for luxury tool watches globally. It defines the category precisely because its intrinsic qualities, its toughness, its consistency make it resistant to the typical depreciation that affects trend-driven or purely scarce pieces. It's a foundational icon, and its widespread adoption speaks to its enduring objective quality, not its fragility as a status symbol. It remains valuable because it is consistently excellent, not primarily because it is difficult to find.
Okay, moving now to the Audemars Piguet Royal Oak. The language used in the source material immediately shifts the focus, I think, directly to the imperative of status signaling. It is described as bold and unmistakable. This distinctive aesthetic isn't just a, pleasant design choice. It's Gerald Genta's revolutionary concept applied to the luxury watch, sure, but its modern function seems to be catering to the extrinsic need for instant, high-level recognition. This is a necessity for figures navigating the public eye, whether that's a LeBron James in the NBA or Virat Kohli in international cricket. That unique octagonal bezel, the exposed screws, they're visual codes that function primarily as a powerful status signal, instantly confirming the wearer's position in the global elite.
That visual signaling is undeniable, yes. But I'd argue it wouldn't have that power if it were not rooted in a genuine horological breakthrough. The Royal Oak is praised as a true masterpiece of design and engineering because it successfully created the first stainless steel luxury sports watch with an integrated bracelet, effectively saving or helping save the industry during the quartz crisis. That structural and aesthetic success is an intrinsic achievement. The fact that this design appeals equally to the glamour of Hollywood and the flair of Bollywood signifies its structural and aesthetic universal appeal. It's not just a status tag, it's a design language that has been imitated for 50 years now. Its intrinsic merit, the sheer technical difficulty of crafting that specific integrated case and bracelet, is what justifies the price and makes the status signal stick. A pure marketing gimmick would fade. The Royal Oak has endured precisely because its engineering actually stands up to its aesthetics. So, looking back across these three iconic pieces, while yes, social perception and celebrity association clearly amplify the price, sometimes to truly astronomical levels, I grant that, the very foundation that allows these watches to become enduring, multi-generational icons rests on objective, intrinsic factors. It is the verifiable precision of the mechanics, the mastery of the design, like Genta's integrated bracelet concept, and their tangible link to pivotal moments in horological history that ensure their longevity. And that justifies their enduring position in the market, even when they face these debates about commonness or pricing hype. Intrinsic quality provides the anchor.
Specific class of obsession-worthy collectibles, particularly pieces like the Nautilus, whose market value just explodes in the secondary sphere. The unique valuations are primarily driven by extrinsic forces. We're talking about manufactured scarcity, the economic principle of Veblen goods, where price signals desirability, and the cultural necessity of recognized status signaling. These factors transform high-quality engineering into definitive status symbols. The engineering, perhaps, determines the floor price, but it's the sociology, the hype, the exclusivity that determines the ceiling.
We have clearly established, then, the powerful tension between objective design excellence and the, overwhelming influence of cultural capital in determining the ultimate market value of these objects.
Indeed. And the source material, I think, successfully illuminates that fully appreciating the value of these timepieces requires us to simultaneously consider both the meticulous mechanics of craftsmanship and the powerful dynamics of cultural capital. It confirms they operate as both objects of engineering excellence and critical social symbols.